There's our guy, Eric Francis. It's middle of January-ish, the NHL, the race is on to the Four Nations Cup. I think I read something somewhere that the Flames were going to play 15 games in 29 days, and there's a lot of teams on this crazy schedule as we get closer and closer to, well, like an event I think a lot of us are looking forward to. But there's some interesting things happening in the NHL, and maybe you can offer a little insight. Yesterday, one of the games, Todd McLellan and the Detroit Red Wings won their 7th straight. They beat the Seattle Kraken 6-2. Eric, what is Todd done to that Red Wing team to turn the ship around?
Well, I mean, empowers people, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea of a new coach, to come in and say, look, guys, it wasn't working under the previous coach. You have a blank slate with me. Show me what you can do, and I'll give you all the rope in the world as long as you're working hard and doing some of the things I asked for. And they've had talent in that room for a long, long time. A long, long time is a bit of a stretch, but for the last several years, certainly everyone's been waiting in the National Hockey League for them, Buffalo, to make that step, right? And there was always the question of which one of those two, or Ottawa, were going to make that step first over in the East. And maybe they're for real, and maybe this is the step that everybody's been waiting for them to take, and maybe it just took a new coach, a new vision, a new attitude around their room to get it out of them. Because the leadership of Dylan Larkin and some of these young guys like Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider, and this Edmondson's a real stud, young, big monster defenseman who's logging a ton of minutes. Like, they've got a lot of the pieces. It was just a matter of filling in the gaps, and maybe they have now. We'll see. I'm skeptical because Buffalo, Ottawa, and Detroit have all taken turns over the last couple of years, showing us in spurts what everyone knows they have, but they can't seem to sustain it. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of people in the hockey world hoping for Stevie Yzerman that it is for real, because they've been lost in the woods for quite some time. He probably deserves a break.
He does. Now, it doesn't matter the sport. Coaches are hired to be fired. That is just a fact of life. And the NHL is no different. Coaches wear out their welcome. With Todd McLellan, because it seems like the welcome's getting shorter and shorter. If you're Todd McLellan, do you think in your mind you've got a max 3 years to get whatever you're going to get out of this done? Because, as soon as you sign that dotted line, it seems like almost now the window starts to close.
I don't know I certainly don't know what the average lifespan of a coach is. It's certainly shorter than 3 years, but so you're right. I mean, I think 3 years is a long time for a coach to be able to get his footing and find his way. And if you can't do it, to your point, like, this is a team that's built to start. Like, they've been rebuilding for a while.
Oh, are we losing Eric there? I think we lost. We had a bad internet connection. Colson. Reconnect. There we are. Yeah, Todd. Oh, yeah. I mean, Todd McLellan, usually when he comes in, has success, but eventually it all wears out. Now, that's any coach anywhere. And we like Todd McLellan. Good Saskatchewan guy. I remember when I worked at the radio station in Swift Current, he was the coach of the Broncos at the time, and then he left that job because of the success he had in the Western Hockey League to go on to the Houston Aeros, which started his pro coaching career. Okay, Eric's back. Yeah, I was just mentioning on the McLellan front. Usually, wherever he goes, he's great at the start and can get guys going and playing their system, but eventually, like it is with everywhere, it fades, goes from there. Nikita Kucherov yesterday, 2 goals, 1 assist. Tampa beats Pittsburgh 5-2. Ottawa beat Dallas 3-2. Cutter Gauthier, the most hated man in Philadelphia, 2 goals, including the overtime winners. The Ducks beat the Hurricanes 3-2. And Vegas keeps its share of first place in the NHL with a 4-1 win over the Minnesota Wild. They had a nice tribute to Marc-Andre Fleury. It's his last game there before retirement.
Yeah, good on him.
Is there anybody, have you ever met anybody that doesn't like Marc-Andre Fleury? Because he just seems like a great guy and a great teammate.
No, even all the forwards who he's frustrated over the years with his brilliance, even they'd have to admit in their heart of hearts they love the guy. I'm going to tell you a little story. During COVID a couple of years ago, stop me if I've told you this before. But during
Okay.
COVID, a couple of years, well, whenever COVID first hit, it was my son's, I think, 10th birthday. And, at age 10, birthdays mean a lot. You want to see your friends, you want to have loot bags, you want to go to the McDonald's caboose, whatever floats your boat. But nobody could see anybody. And he'd been in a period of time where nobody was allowed to see anybody for a long time. School was off. And I just thought, you know what? His favorite player in the NHL was Marc-Andre Fleury. And I reached out to his agent, Alan Walsh, who I've known for a lot of years. And I said, Alan, is there any way that you could get Marc-Andre to do a video or something for my son just to say happy birthday? I'm going to say 2 hours later, I had a video from Marc-Andre Fleury. Maybe we'll play it one day. I'll send it to you. We can play it on the air here. It's short, it's sweet, but he's out at a park with his kids and he just took the time to just say, hey, Cole, I'm really sorry to hear you can't go and celebrate your birthday with your friends, but, happy birthday. And thanks for being a fan of mine and a fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins at the time. And, I guess it was Vegas at the time. Anyway, he said, just that it was just when I got the video, it damn near brought a tear to my eye. And maybe just talking about it now, it doesn't mean a whole lot. But you have to remember where we were in the world during COVID and how desolate it seemed and how scary it was. And it meant the world to me as a dad. And I know it meant a lot to my son too. So these are the sort of things that Marc-Andre Fleury does. I haven't heard of any other players throwing together birthday videos for little boys.
We're inside the NHL with Eric Francis from Sportsnet. It's brought to you by Southie Mainline Chrysler. Farewell to 2024 and hello to massive savings at Southie Mainline. Up to $25,000 off remaining 2024 inventory. Eric, you'd look good. Save up to $19,000 on a 2024 heavy-duty truck. Plus, they got 2024 Jeep Compasses starting at $34,945. They're just 30 minutes south of Regina, Southie Mainline. Worth the drive every time, guaranteed. 3 games in the NHL tonight. It's not on Sportsnet. You got to have Amazon Prime to watch this, and luckily we do. I saw that ding on the phone the other day, the 5-something that they take for Prime. So not only can we get whatever our house is full. We don't need any more stuff, but stuff keeps showing up, probably like at your house. But tonight we can watch Calgary and Chicago. I don't know if this is prime time. I like how Amazon shoots the game. I think it's neat. Calgary needs to win this game. They beat the Kings on Saturday. It's 2-1. And if they don't beat a team like Chicago tonight, it's those games on Saturday where they play good defense. Dustin Wolf stands on his head. You can't let a game like that go to not beat a team like Chicago, who, not that they're not talented, that they can't win, but these are the games they have to win to stay in playoff contention. Do you agree?
I do agree. And I know there's 41 games left and no one's sitting here saying it's a must win, but the Calgary Flames last year, if you recall, before they had to get rid of all their UFAs, they were right at this time last year. They were right in a playoff spot as well. They were right there against some of the odds. And ultimately they're undoing, when they traded away all their unrestricted free agents, it was pretty predictable. They just slide into oblivion. But what kickstarted their exodus from the playoff race was long before the UFAs went away. It was when they lost, I think, 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 4 against the Chicago Blackhawks. They've had a hard time with this team for several years now. No one can explain it. But, when you miss the playoffs, I can't remember how many they missed by last year, but you gave up, I think, 8 of a possible 10 points to one of the worst teams in the National Hockey League, a team clearly tanking and on their way back up, maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, the way it's going. So yeah, these are the games you have to win. You're on a 4-game road trip if you're the Flames. The next 2 games after that are both in St. Louis. That's kind of a quirky schedule thing. And then after that, you're in Winnipeg. Good luck facing Connor Hellebuck, especially at home. So and the Flames are also one of the worst road teams in the league. If you're going to win games on the road, you'd like to think you could be able to do it against the lowly Chicago Blackhawks. So I agree with you. If you have a Prime account, and quite frankly, who doesn't? You can tune into this game last night. I get that it's not appointment viewing. I get that when you see those 2 teams on the marquee, you're like, is there anything else I can watch? But there is some intrigue around the Calgary Flames, and of course, Chicago does have Connor Bedard, so that's always worth watching.
So last week, and I don't know, I'm like, have I been living in an igloo? Have I been like living under a rock? I didn't know. All of a sudden, where's this Rasmus Anderson needs to be traded or has requested a trade coming from the Calgary Flames? I thought he was like a long-term guy. Is there any truth to, is there flames where there is smoke coming from this rumor?
No, I mean, I haven't even heard that rumor. That's ridiculous. Whoever made that up must be your neighbor.
Okay.
No, I did have a call him on Friday, an exclusive chat with Rasmus Anderson, where he said, I want to be here long term. I want to sign. I don't
Okay.
want to be traded at the deadline this year, but I only have a 6-team no trade list. So it's out of my hands. He said, I can sign a new deal July 1st. He's got a year and a half left on his contract. So nothing pressing
Okay.
here. There will be no trade of Rasmus Anderson unless the bottom completely falls out of this season and he requests a trade. But he's happy here. He's been empowered here. He's been their number one defenseman here. I think he should seriously consider staying here because we've seen so many guys who leave as UFAs thinking the grass is greener. Not necessarily is that the case. But I'll tell you what, I started looking at the numbers, Maz, and like by the time he rolls around to being a UFA in a year and a half and the way the cap's going up, I'll give you this. So Darnell Nurse kind of set the bar at a ridiculous height. What's he making? 9.5 a year to be a top four defenseman at best. Rasmus Anderson is the number one defenseman in Calgary. There's a better defensive team than the Edmonton Oilers. If that's 11% of the cap space that the Edmonton Oilers have is dedicated to Darnell Nurse. Extrapolate that to the salary cap is going to go up to like 110 in a couple of years. Start doing the numbers to 120. I think it's supposed to be in 2 years. You're looking at a $12 million defenseman in Rasmus Anderson. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't do it in a heartbeat, but that's going to be the going rate for a number one defenseman. Like on the open market, he's going to sign somewhere between 10, 11, $12 million. So if that's the price you want to pay as the Calgary Flames to keep him, it's probably what you're looking at. As ridiculous as it sounds. And that's not to besmirch his name. He's been pretty good for this team, and he wants to stay. So we'll see where that goes. But nothing's going anywhere anytime soon, to your point.
Yeah, well, if you're Craig Conroy, you'd be smart because what was I reading today? The cap's is it going from 88 to 97 million next year? It's going up 9 million. Is that the correct number?
I forget the number. And in 2 years, it'll be up to 110. So
sure. So if you're Craig Conroy, it's in your best interest to go throw the bag at him now before you know that it's going to get ridiculous to sign this long-term deal. The Florida Panthers, they just keep on.
I don't. No agent would let their players sign a year early. I don't think.
I know, but in a perfect world,
saying,
if you're with Craig Conroy and the company checkbook to be like, hey, can we just? Wouldn't it be great if you could tear up contracts and sign new ones, or you could do that would make hockey a lot more interesting if contracts weren't guaranteed like the NFL. Only some of the upfront money. It would definitely change how the game is played. The Panthers are in Philadelphia tonight to take on the Flyers. I'm just trying to think, how long has Torts been with Philadelphia? Because the act hasn't worn out yet. Are we into year 3? Speaking of coaches wearing out their acts.
Yeah, I think it's 4 years.
Year 2.
3 or 4, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Florida just keeps playing good hockey. Yeah, he's a beauty. They've seemed to replace what they lost, but probably the game of the night that a lot of people are intrigued, and this could be a potential playoff matchup, the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. Somewhere along the way, if you're getting out of the West, these two teams might match up. Did we on Saturday against the Flames, did we not see the Kings team that they usually present because they played the night before on a back-to-back?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that being from, the entertainment capital of the world, they try to play entertaining hockey, but they get away with playing just plug up they play a very boring brand of hockey. They have for many years. It's just the way they've played hockey. And that game on Saturday, up until the midway point when Ryan Lomberg started fighting everybody, it was a tough game to watch. It was sloppy. It was clogged up right in the middle. But that's the LA Kings. The LA Kings, they're a damn good hockey team. They play to their identity very well. They're a low event team at both ends of the ice. They like it played right in the neutral zone. And they'll be there in the playoffs, and they're going to be one of the minor impediments in the way of the Edmonton Oilers at some point in time. I think the Oilers have eliminated them, 3 years in a row now? But
Jeez.
I'll tell you, the most interesting thing coming out of that game Saturday was indeed Ryan Lomberg. This guy, so that's the third game this year where he's fought 2 guys in a game, and he keeps threatening to try and get the hat trick and fight 3 guys in one night, which is an automatic ejection. But if anybody can do it in the league, it's probably Ryan Lomberg, and he's such a character. He fought Tanner Jeannot. You know, there's a 1-1 game, and not much was going on, and he just wanted to shake it up for his team. One of those fights. He went and asked Tanner Jeannot, "Will you fight?" And Jeannot's like, "I'm 32 pounds taller." And Jeannot probably got the better half of the fight. Didn't kill him or anything, but on the way to the box, there he is. As his coach said after, he's an animal. He's smiling, laughing. The crowd is going nuts. They love this guy. This guy's one of the most popular players in this city I've seen in 30 years, like inside and outside the room. And he just gets it. He's in the penalty box, and there's a fan next to him. And they show the fan on the Jumbotron, like, and Lomberg. Lomberg looks up, sees the Jumbotron, and motions to the guy, "Hey, chug, man, like, be a hero." He's always trying to get the crowd going, whether it's through a fan, whether it's through a fight, whether it's through a hit. And so the fan just takes a sip and then puts his beer down. And Lomberg's like, "Buddy," like, and says after the game, like, "Next time I try to get a guy, I hope he hoses his beer and he gets the crowd going, because that's what it's all about." And that is exactly what it's all about for Ryan Lomberg, and he brings it. So if the LA Kings are one of the most boring teams in the league, they played one of the most exciting players in Ryan Lomberg. He's a beauty.
Well, it's too bad that guys like that eventually, the NHL just won't have any of that. And that's the personality. That's what makes the league a league. Like the characters are what make, because characters you never forget. Characters and stories you never ever forget that. So and he is, and I always wondered, like, he won the cup last year with the Panthers, and then he's back in Calgary, and I'm like, well, and I was like, well, yeah, but he's a glue guy. He's a grit guy. I think I read somewhere today is Connor McDavid's 28th birthday. Does he not seem older than 28? Just because we've had Connor McDavid in our lives for so long.
Yeah.
He's not the normal. This isn't shocking. This isn't a hot take or breaking news. I don't think he's the normal 28-year-old.
Rack that one, boy. That's a good take. Yeah, no, he's still the best. He's the best in the world. I mean, there's just no question about it. Look, I've had this debate with my friends, not debate, but discussion. It's more fear at this point. People ask me all the time. I ask them, can Canada win this thing at the Four Nations Cup, Four Nations face-off? And I say the only hope they have, in my opinion, because their goaltending is so inferior to everybody else, the only hope they have is the fact that we have the 3 best players in the world. Connor McDavid, Cale
Darnell
McCarr,
Nurse. And
Darnell Nurse. Yeah, I don't know how he didn't make the team. And Nathan McKinnon. So you know, when you have the 3 best players in the world, you should have a damn good chance. But when you got a goalie who's probably ranked, if there are 12 goalies in the tournament, I'd have a hard time putting any of Canada's in the top 8. It's just the way. I mean, I hope they prove us all wrong. And boy, there's nobody in the world who'd be more motivated to prove the world wrong than Binnington, because he's got that chip on his shoulder already. But I can't see it happening. I just can't see it happening. So McDavid's going to have to shoulder a heavy load at Four Nations face-off if this team's going to have a chance.
I'm a normal 28-year-old, by the way.
If you haven't accomplished as much as Connor McDavid, Colson.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
No.
Are you a goalie? We need you.
Yeah. 27 and a half. He's a bit older than me, but close enough.
I was watching the Cam and Strick podcast last week, and Martin Brodeur was on there, Martin Brodeur, and he was talking about how when he was with the St. Louis organization, they were trying to send Binnington down, and he phoned Binnington, and Binnington's like, "No, I'm not going down. You're not sending me to the minors. It's not happening." He like talked his way out of getting sent down, and I'm like, "You got to, you know, that guy."
Like
Yeah, it sounds like Binnington. the NFL wildcard weekend wasn't wild after all, and it usually never is, because the tiers in the NFL, there's that upper echelon, and the murky middle can never beat the upper echelon. The only interesting game last night was Tampa Bay and Washington, Jaden Daniels. So tonight we're going to wrap wildcard weekend. The Minnesota Vikings taking on the LA Rams at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The game's been moved because of the fires in LA. Are you watching? And if you are, who do you think is coming out with a win?
I will be keeping an eye on it. I don't know if I'll be watching. The Flames game's on at the same time, so that takes precedent for me. But yeah, I mean, NFL for me, I know you're not allowed to say these sort of things out loud, but the NFL doesn't captivate me like it does the rest of the world. So I will be watching. I watched that Commanders game last night. I love how much is being made about that kicker going in and being so nervous that he fixed his hair about 6 times before he put his helmet on.
Do we have that? If you don't have anxiety, you watch this clip, you will get anxiety. Watch this guy. Like, this is nuts. Yeah. He can't stop touching his hair.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
5.
7. Oh my God.
The guy's name is Zane. I know.
Never.
Like, I was so uncomfortable after the first time I watched it. I had to watch it again. The guy's name is Zane Gonzalez, I believe. He's their 3rd or 4th kicker this year. And I think he hasn't played he hasn't played in the NFL since 2001. I think his last team was the Cleveland Browns. So obviously he's got a lot riding on his shoulders. I mean, it's funny when you see players that wear wedding rings, like when they're in games, then I was feeling bad to be like, well, if this guy doesn't make this, like, this is affecting his family because he's cut. Like, you just know that he is.
Oh yeah.
And then they doink it through. Colson, do we have that video? Want to pull that up for Eric where they kick it through? This is the play-by-play team, the Washington play-by-play team, and they're just losing their mind. It's awesome.
Looking to send Washington into the divisional round. Snap good, hold down, kick on its way. It is good! The Cardiac Commanders are the clutch Commanders. They do it again. We'll see you in Detroit. And Zane Gonzalez kicks in the door and kicks us into the second round of the playoffs.
Oh, that's the beauty of live radio, man. I love it. So that's their first win in 6,945 days, the first playoff win in 20 years. All they needed to do is get rid of that scumbag owner, Dan Snyder, and then they hire Dan Quinn. They get the number 2 overall pick, and they get Jaden Daniels, and then things are good. I'm not a Washington fan, but after that, you can't not be a Washington fan and just sort of cheer for what's happening there, because that is why we love sports. It's the emotion and the roller coasters and the highs that go along with it.
Oh, yeah. And everyone's excited about the quarterback there. Like, he's going to transform that organization. And he already has, in a way. I think when you're talking about it being a clutch play or clutch win, I mean, if they don't grease the poles before the game, that thing doesn't go through. That's pretty, and everybody's face afterwards, the coach and the assistant coach look at each other. They both are like laughing, going, woo, like that was close. So if anyone in that organization thinks they have any faith in that kicker, they're lying to you. Like, they're lying. There's no faith in this guy. And there shouldn't be. He's their fourth kicker, and he's more worried about his hair than actually nailing the game winner. So I don't. But again, that's a character in a way, and we all will watch that game next week and want to see how this kicker does. Everyone's expecting him to fail. If he comes through, it's one of those great stories in sports. So we'll be watching, and I look forward to it. They don't have much chance against Detroit, I know that, but at least he'll get in a couple kicks, and we'll see how.
Colson, do we have that video of the guys in the Philly before the Philly game in the parking lot pumping iron? Do we have that one ready to go? This is the most bizarre thing. This is the most interesting thing I saw all weekend. Okay, we don't have it, but we'll pull it up. So basically, in the tailgate in Philadelphia, outside the stadium, you guys they brought a weight bench, and then they've got a bar with 45 plates, one on each side, and they're their fans pumping iron, and then they get one of the cops who is doing security in the parking lot. He comes over and starts doing reps as well. That's a commitment to a tailgate. Not only you're bringing beer, you're bringing food, a barbecue, and you're bringing the weight set out of the garage to pump iron.
That's pretty fun. It's a little smarter, a little more cerebral than the Buffalo Bills, who bring a collapsible table and jump onto it in their drunkenness. So I'll give them credit for creativity, and also, hey, they're getting fit. What's wrong with that?
No, I thought that was good. All right. Eric Francis joins us Mondays and Wednesdays. We go inside the NHL for Southie Mainline Chrysler. It's worth the drive every time, guaranteed. Southie Mainline Chrysler, just 30 minutes south of Regina. All right, Eric, have fun flipping channels tonight between Monday Night Raw and the Flame. And that's on, if you've forgotten, Monday Night Raw is on Netflix. And the Flames game is going to be on Amazon Prime. So if you got to be good with the apps on the remote. This is just not normal channel flicking. You got to be back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Flames will take on Chicago. Everybody. That game gets rolling just after 6 o'clock. All right, time to take a break. When we come back, there's a little bit of baseball news. The Toronto Blue Jays, could they or should they be in the running for one of the most sought-after free agents that could be playing in the majors next season? Probably it's a should thing. And we're also going to hear Dave Thomas, voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Corey Mace at the coaches' meetings going on in North Carolina from earlier today. Stand by. It's the all-new Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and on the radio at 620 CKRM.